Be kind. Everyone carries a heavy load. Be kind. Everyone carries a heavy load. Be kind. Everyone carries a heavy load.
Welcome, I'm Joseph Hepburn, and we are all members here of the church in Ocean Park. We are an interfaith, multi-faith community. So you are welcome if you are Jewish, if you are Muslim, if you are Hindu, if you are Christian, atheist, or even some other combination or something else. You are welcome if you just came in from a protest march. You're welcome if you were protesting at school, just from a protest march, or protesting to those who are not supportive of your protesting at home. You are welcome if you miss Pride Month events, if you are preparing for it at home and you weren't successful, and if you are very late in trying to organize for Juneteenth, you're welcome at the church in Ocean Park. If you're a renter, landlady, landlord, if you're living in your car or car trailer, moving from place to place and feel restless, you will find rest and ease and comfort here at the church in Ocean Park. There's a special invitation to those who are single, just married, just realized from Change Church Policy that you were married years and years ago, to all fathers and fathers-to-be, to all those who have not really fathered children, but have fathered many, many boys and girls from the community. We welcome you to the church in Ocean Park. There's a special invitation to those who are single, married, divorced. Special invitation to those who are surprised that they just woke up, or just got out of jail, or just that they are alive and well after a bad night. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park. Whether you are an elder millennial, a Gen Z, Gen X, Gen Alpha, or just Gen confused, you are welcome to the church in Ocean Park. If you are standing in the need of prayer, and I know many are, if you need support, prayerful guidance, you are welcome. You're welcome if you're happy and you know it, and you surely want to show it. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
My name is Janet Gollery McKith, and I also welcome you here. I'm lucky enough to be the minister at the church in Ocean Park. I spent some of last week at the annual conference of the United Methodist Church, and while it's great to see friends and I like connecting with my roots, I'm always so happy to be back here at the church in Ocean Park. There's a lot of things that I appreciate about the United Methodist Church, and there's a lot of things that I'm really happy that aren't happening at the church in Ocean Park. So it's also a week where some things have happened in the community. As you may know, somebody was killed at the Jemison bar right here on the Main Street, and there's still things happening in your lives. The Juneteenth celebration, a big one, happened yesterday at the park. There's all kinds of things going on, so we understand that you probably are carrying things that we have no idea. As a matter of fact, all of us are carrying things that nobody else knows about. And so if you just would look around right now and just look at people and just realize, that they might be going through something that you have no idea about, and that kind of spread some love if you can. And just, as the song said, everyone's carrying a heavy load. Be kind. We want to begin by acknowledging that we are currently sitting on stolen land. The land was taken violently here in Santa Monica from the Quiche, the Chumash, and the Tongva peoples. We acknowledge the harms of genocide, forced assimilation, enslavement, and destruction at the hands of U.S. colonial settlerism. We also acknowledge that our communities and country was built on the backs of people who were stolen from Africa, placed into bondage, and forced into labor. We acknowledge that that labor has never been repaid, and we benefited from it every day. Let us commit ourselves to healing by helping to create a more just and equitable world through the struggle of changing how we do things that we think are normal, but are actually systemically hurting people. We all have biases, and it takes intentionality to build compassion for people whose lives are different from ours. At the church in Ocean Park, we try to work across boundaries to tear down unjust systems and to build new relationships of healing and love. This morning, you'll hear from a variety of people. If you hear something you disagree with, know that they don't speak for the entirety of the church in Ocean Park, but they speak for themselves, and that's really important, and your voice is just as important. This morning we are celebrating some of the fathers in our midst. We also acknowledge that there are people who have wanted to be fathers and were not able to. Some people who are had a relationship with their fathers that is complicated. We acknowledge that there are people who father us in this church. We have a number of church fathers here, and who have cared for many, many children, and so they are in fact fathers in that way. So we care for and we are grateful for all of this. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for bending the arc toward justice. And we'll center ourselves this morning with a chant from Thich Nhat Hanh. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now, 3 times.
Okay, so this morning, my 2 sons are here, Daniel and William, also known as Dan and Will, and they're going to say a few things about me, but now I'm going to go 1 generation back and say some things about my dad by singing a song which was actually written by my sister. So the point of view of the song is that of a daughter rather than of a son. But just a few things. She really captured his spirit extremely well in the song. He was a ordained minister, and he was a college chaplain for a while, but most of his career was in being a professor of religion at Hollins College, which is now Hollins University in Roanoke, Virginia. And those are referenced here, and that's where I grew up. From the age of 4, I grew up in Roanoke. I think that's enough. And the choir is going to join me in the chorus. On Father's Day, we have the memories Roanoke. We share the spirit of this man. He was a preacher, he was a teacher, he was intelligent and kind. He showed the way to look for meaning. Search in your heart, your soul, your mind. He was a talker, he was a listener. He asked the backgrounds of those he'd meet, from nurses, aide pals, to fellow PhDs, all kinds of folks he loved to greet. On Father's Day, we have the memories of special times. It is so grand. From round the country, we come to Roanoke. We share the spirit of this man. He was a husband, he was a father, he was devoted, there's no disguise. He loved my mother, myself, my brothers. We each were special in his eyes. He loved the mountains, he loved the valleys. Holland's College was his home. He looked for hours at Dead Man's Mountain. He was contented, no need to roam.
Join us if you can.
On Father's Day,
We have the memories.
we have the memories
Of special
of
times.
special times. It is so grand.
From round the country.
From round the country,
We come to Roanoke.
we come to Roanoke. We share the spirit of this man. Once more.
On Father's Day, we have the memories.
We have the memories
Of special
of
times.
special times. It is so grand.
From round the country.
From round the country, we come to Roanoke.
We share the
We
spirit.
share the spirit of this man.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much. What a heartfelt, wonderful insight into your dad. So now we have our panel coming forward. And we're going to invite Kathleen, Kiran, and let's see, Clara and Dash, and Froggy, and Dan and Will. Wonderful. So this is an amazing time because these people are going to share, be kind of vulnerable with us, and we get to. This is what community is about, right? This is so. I would ask the fathers if you could if you're not already, come into the middle, maybe in the middle, like circle, like row. And here these, okay. All right, so we just want you to be able to make sure you hear what's going on. And I know one of them's up there. Okay, so I'm going to hand you the microphone and just, you can read your thing. Thank you. And then you can say the name of your dad first. You can point him out.
My dad is Cheyenne Roy. He is joyful, he is good, he is kind, he is nice, he is successful. He has a big brain and a big heart. He does kindness. He is kind to other animals. He's kind to other living animals. Kieran.
Good job, Kieran.
Is your daddy here?
I'm Kathy. I'm Shai's wife, and I'd like to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And I think Shai wears many hats, and I think father is my favorite. And I've really treasured watching him and Kieran grow their relationship over the past 6 years. I was asked to talk a little bit about his parenting style, and so I gave that some thought. And I think that I would call it the hands-off, hands-on technique. I think he's incredibly hands-on, both at home with everything around the house and helping with Kieran, and then also in the community with Kieran as well. So coaching sports and stepping up for sports when needed, being very active in our school last year. He became PTA president when we needed help with some of the PTA roles. And, I just really have appreciated that about him. And so, I just want to say thank you, Shai, and thanks to all the fathers. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Clara, and this is
Dashel.
This is Dashel. Hi. Dashel wrote something for Chris the other day, and he wrote it directly to Chris in the first person. So I'm reading for Dash because that's how Dash prefers it. Dad, I love you as a dad and a son. We both love our moms too. My mom and your mom, my grandma. Dad, I am very thankful that you try to understand me and are loving, kind, gentle, respectful, and cool with that music. Sorry I drive you crazy sometimes, but that is what us kids do, as you know. I love you, and I hope you enjoy your special day, and let's have some fun together. Sound good, Dad? So Dash, I know this is about you, Chris, but I just want to start to say Dash didn't start typing to communicate till he was 11. So there was a lot of stuff in here that we had no idea about. And I remember really well the first year that he could type and was typing. And it just really all came out. It was really amazing. But what I remember so much was the first Mother's Day card that I got from Dashel and the first Father's Day card that Chris got from Dashel. And that's what this reminds me of. When it's a real physical effort to communicate, what you communicate is each and every word is all that more important. And I remember Dashiell was kind enough to say I was pretty, but he, which I really loved. I'm not gonna deny it. But he also talked about, when he wrote that first card, about how much he respected Chris and how much he looked up to Chris, and how when he saw who Chris was and how Chris lived his life, that's what he hoped for himself. That's what he planned to become. And I don't think you can really ask for much more as a dad. But I'll just say that, both Chris and I came from families with sort of semi-absent dads, divorced families from an early age. And plus our dads were kind of similar in the sense that they were like the cool, I don't really talk, you're gonna have to win me over type. And we're both very cool guys, but not necessarily gonna share, what they had inside. And Chris is, I don't know if it was a conscious choice to be different or if it was a conscious choice to just add on to that, because we know both of our dads did love us in their own weird way. But you have just been so present. We're into year 25, sorry. And I just want to thank you for always being there for Dash and for me. And it sounds so trite, always being there, but literally always being there. And just putting yourself out like, okay, I'm here. What do we need to do? Okay, we're all together. Let's make it work. Okay, this could be a total nightmare. In fact, maybe it is a total nightmare if it's an outing or it's a whatever. But that doesn't matter because we're here. We'll work it out. The only time I've ever seen Chris completely lose his temper, and we've known each other coming up to 40 years, is when one of the people in the special ed department at Santa Monica USD just had the nerve to just over and over and over again put these limits upon Dash, limits of no, he needs to be in this class, no, he'll never read, no, he'll never understand math, no, he'll this, no, he'll that. They were wrong. They were so wrong, right? They couldn't have been more wrong. But I just remember Chris just, he just went from being the world's nicest man to just just losing it. And it was perfect because I'm usually the one who does that and people are just like, yeah, la, la, la. But when it comes from a place where it never happens that way, where you've never seen it before, it means everything. And I really think that was a huge turning point for us as a family and for Dash especially. So I thank you and we love you so much. And I'm sorry I blabbed so much.
Hey everybody, my name's Elias. I just go by Froggy because I'm used to, it's easier to remember, but y'all can call me Elias. Anyways, my dad's a legend. You'll never know it because we don't advertise it usually, but my dad's my best friend. He's all-encompassing, I feel like. I idolize him, so it feels that way. But he really can do pretty much anything, handle anything. I wouldn't be here otherwise, probably. He taught me, he answered all my questions. I was separated from him when I was 5. and we reunited around when I was 12 or 13, and I moved here with him when I was 16, and all my spiritual beliefs and how I navigate the world is thanks to him, and I'm a lot like him where I don't really enjoy the spotlight, and when I say all-encompassing, I hope that covers just about everything. But yeah, I'm eternally thankful, and I want to, we're like partners, we're like partners in crime or whatever. So we're best friends, and we're in it together, and we got big plans. So thanks, everybody. That's okay. I can stay here. It's fine. Oh, my dad is Nate. He's up there. I didn't want to put the spotlight on him because he already got it today. He had his up here. So, but that's him. Yeah. He forgot to turn the lights off up there too. So.
He's sort of like a heavenly father.
Yeah. Well, one of the coolest things he taught me is how your relationship to God directly correlates with your relationship to your father most of the time. So, anyhow.
All right, so I wrote something here. Happy Father's Day, everyone. My name is Will, and thanks for letting me talk a little bit about my dad, who many of you probably know, Bob Gord. There are a lot of things I could say about my dad, and since I don't want to keep you all day, and since I also have an audience, I thought I would focus on one particular thing. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to brag. I'm going to use this opportunity to brag about a project that my dad and I embarked on together in partnership over the past few years. For a little bit of context, I make my living as a filmmaker, and about 6 years ago now, which is crazy, I landed an ongoing freelance gig filming and directing a left-leaning satirical news show on YouTube. First, we film a short 15, 20-minute episode once or twice a month, and my job was to set up the lights, camera, microphone, monitor the performance of the host. And I was proud of what I was doing, but there was a part of me that understood that the most significant aspect of this show's success was in the scripts, was in what was being communicated. Show was covering a variety of important topics, but I realized that I also had some stuff I wanted to say, specifically as it related to issues of race and racism in American society. But though writing had been one of my first passions, I was out of practice and lacking in confidence. I had all sorts of ideas swirling around in my head, but I wasn't sure how to articulate them. And besides, the show already had an established stable of writers who they regularly relied on. But I ultimately decided to want to take a swing at it and went out on a limb and asked the producers if I could give it a shot. And that's when I turned to my dad. I asked him if I could meet with him on a regular basis, talk through my ideas, and get feedback. But unfortunately, he said no, so thanks for nothing, Dad. No, sorry. Of course, he said yes, but he went much further than that. Not only did he enthusiastically meet with me and take my regular phone calls, where he listened to my ideas on structure and answered an array of questions that I had, he also volunteered his own time to help me research the topics I was writing about. When I decided to write a script about critical race theory, he reread a book he had already read about it, highlighting useful passages along the way. And that book is like really thick and dense, by the way. When I was working on a script about the prison industrial complex, he read a book about it, marked it up for me. When I wrote a script about the whitewashing of Martin Luther King, he read one of his books and found a quote of his that became the centerpiece to my argument. He even graciously allowed me to plagiarize his own definition of systemic racism for one of my scripts. You get the idea. And then after I finished each script, he would print them out, mark them up, and we would meet about them. And his notes range from simple grammatical errors, grammar errors, I don't know, I didn't let him proofread this one, to flaws in my arguments, to advice on structure, all presented thoughtfully and lovingly. And when it became clear to me throughout all this that what became clear to me is that my dad views my success as his success. He doesn't distinguish between the two. And so I'm gonna brag here a little bit about what we were able to do together. I ended up writing 10 scripts for this show over the past few years, and I checked yesterday, they've got close to 8 million views. And yeah, I'm proud of that number, and I'm shamelessly bragging about it. But the important thing is that millions of people have been exposed to certain, what I think are important arguments that we've been making. And so beyond the impact of these specific videos, I feel like it's influenced the show in a way that's ongoing, where we focus more on the nexus between race and class in our society. And now, instead of 20-minute episodes every once in a while, we're doing nearly hour-long episode every week. So my dad helped me make a small impact on the world, I think. He devoted his time and energy and love towards helping me do something that I found meaningful. And so as I reflect on Dad's Day and what it means to be a dad, what I'm ultimately trying to say with this story is that my dad supported my passions and my goals and nurtured my gifts. And not just with a passive attaboy, keep up the good work, but by dedicating his time and energy into helping make my endeavor a success. And I think that's part of what makes a good parent, and that's part of what makes a good dad. Active, engaged support. And as a result, my confidence in writing has grown significantly. To the point where my dad actually asked me to review his pieces of writing and values my insights. But the main point here is that I want to brag again. I want to publicly brag in front of everyone here about a project that my dad and I were able to do together that I think has made a small impact on the world. But most of all, I want to brag. I want to brag about my dad, and I also want to sincerely apologize to everyone here. I'm truly sorry that your dad is not Bob Gord. Sucks to be you. But I want you all to know that I don't take my good luck for granted. Happy Father's Day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel. This is my brother, so you're going to be hearing some conflicting stuff about this man over here. Happy Father's Day. I'm so happy to get to talk today about my dad, Robert Gord, or as some of you know him, Bobbert the Great. I wanted to talk about him today in the context of being an adult, very sensitive, queer man who was born in the mid-'80s. So in 1985, that's the year I was born, which was obviously the early-ish years of the HIV pandemic, the LA Times did a survey about attitudes toward homosexuality. And here's some of the highlights. First of all, this was the context was like, attitudes are getting better. And then here are the results. 73% said homosexual activity was wrong. 28% believed that AIDS was God's punishment for homosexuals. 23% saying AIDS victims are getting what they deserve. In this LA Times survey, 89% said they would be upset if their child became homosexual. This is in the context of 10% of the respondees being homosexual themselves. So in that context, you must sense how very lucky I feel to have Bob Gord as my dad. For gay and queer men from my generation and beyond, a torn relationship with your father is so prevalent, it's almost a cliche at this point. But the reality is that the disconnection in this is a source of tremendous pain and heartbreak and emptiness for a majority of my gay peers. At the core of that heartbreak, in my opinion, is a culprit called toxic masculinity, and the idea that manliness is shown through physical or emotional domination of others, through being unemotional unless angry, which is a manly emotion, and through strict adherence to a variety of other traditional masculine expectations. But my dad was a different kind of father with very different types of priorities for the model he wanted to set for me and all of his kids. My dad was always more interested in learning about his children and what ignited us than holding us to his own expectations, in supporting our growth than tamping down our individuality. And though he did have a strict and frankly dictatorial requirement of 1 hour of creative time a day, my dad's paradigm for masculinity has never been centered around outperforming, demeaning, or subjugating, unless you're talking about basketball, but instead on educating, enlightening, and empowering. He's always set the example that masculinity is not about taking from others, but sharing with them, and that strength is not about changing yourself to fit in with others, but loving yourself. That wisdom is not about knowing everything, but also about listening. And I am so lucky to have Bobbert the Wise as a father. And I just want to say, I think toxic masculinity, it hurts everyone it comes into contact with, especially young children learning to be who they are. Love you, Dad.
Can we just say thank you to all these wonderful sharing? Oh my gosh, that was incredible. I mean, incredible. You guys, I'm so moved by each one of what you said. So we're going to let you have a seat wherever you want. You can stay up here if you like, or you could sit wherever you like, and we're going to have a song. Okay. And then we're going to have community sharing.
I want to sing a song called I Care. Now, it's by Tom T. Hall, country singer. And I do believe, for full disclosure, that he's singing as a grandfather, but of course, he was a father too. When the TV won't work and your toys fall apart and you have a sad feeling deep in your heart, you want to go out, but it's raining out there. I want you to know I care. I care. I do. There's no one like you. When they take you someplace and you sit in a chair, I want you to know I care. When you tell a big lie and your parents are mean, when being grown up is a faraway dream, when they're filling your teeth and cutting your hair, I want you to know I care. I care. I do. There's no one like you. I mention your name when I'm saying my prayers. I want you to know I care. When you have a bad cough and you can't go out, when you sit for a week with that thing in your mouth, when you sleep in the dark and there's something out there. I want you to know I care, I care, I do. There's no one like you. And sometimes I act like a grouchy old bear. I want you to know I care. I love you too much.
Beautiful song, beautiful song. All right, well, we had a very moving sharing this morning, and now is community sharing where you get to say something. Come on up, Fred. Fred is one of our church fathers. Let's give him a hand.
It was very moving to hear everyone speak. I think we should acknowledge one failure of Bob Gore was not turning his sons into Boston Celtics fans. But I've personally been over their house many times and seen the interactions between Bob and his sons. And here in church over the years, it's always moving. It's always a touching to my heart. And Chris as well, he runs our Thursday night circle on Zoom, and he's kept it going all these years and is still going, and we always look forward to sharing with him and hearing what he has to say. Sometimes it's light and sometimes it goes off into the ozone, but we go right there with him. So I appreciate both men and all the fathers here today.
Also, just echo, what a moving morning, and Bob, just what a tribute. It's just so sweet. My son was also born in 1985, so I know the milieu. I just want to say a word about my own dad, who I was born in 1955, rather. My son was born in 85. Who was so atypical for a 60s, 50s kind of dad. He was a single child. His mother was, we found out recently, 46 when he was born. His dad died when he was a teenager. And somehow, this man just knew how to do it. And unlike every other household I was in, he came home from work, rolled up his sleeves, changed diapers, helped with dinner, helped with homework, just did whatever happened. There were 7 kids, there was plenty happening. It was so weird to be in other families where I could see that was not happening, and the mom was so pressed upon. But actually, before he got to it with all the chores, I remember he would go, I presume to each of us. I have a better memory than most of my siblings about our childhood, so they can't confirm this for me. But I know for me, before he did all that, he made sure to come and say hello to me and give me a hug and a squeeze. It's like he treated me like a person who mattered. And although we had this great schism in teenage years, mostly about religion, because he was a very devout Catholic, and heartbroken that I and many of his children did not go that path. I got this letter from him when we were fairly newly married, still teenagers maybe even, I never got letters from my father. I got letters from my mother, back in the day, right? We lived 400 miles away. So that got my attention. And he just said, I want you to know that no matter our differences, I love you dearly, and nothing will become between our love, I was too young and stupid to not save that letter, but it's in my heart. And then, well, I got married very young, but when we were blessed with kids 10 years later, Dylan, the first Emma to follow, I had everything that in my dad, in Chris, all of those things, and all of that fathering on display. So I've been blessed twice.
I want to first say something that I've noticed. When looking at the community, the African American community, they blame much of the high crime and the trauma and the travesty that exists there on the lack of fathers in the home. And they just leave it at that. One of the things I've seen in dealing with the church is there is a book group. And one of the first books I think we read was The New Jim Crow. And that expressed a great deal about where men are. And if you're men, you're basically fathers. Another reason why I think I take issue with that statement is the fact that I lost my father before I reached puberty. So I know what it is to go without a father. But I come back looking for various people to fill that role, and it's really not the same. But one thing I can say about this church, I've seen the fathers in here. I've seen the dedication, the love, and the commitment. Because essentially when you take a father out, you're pretty much destroying, or not destroying, but putting serious trauma to a family. And I have the utmost respect for the men who come through here as fathers, and I take the lessons that they say in reference in dealing with children, even though I'm not. I'm taking from that spirit and imparting them and guiding them. And I'd love to more or less, if indeed I hear that question again about the lack of fathers in the home and why that is, I'd love to engage them as to why that is. Because this society, I think, and this is my thought, has a serious issue with what makes a father a father. And, you know, in focusing in on that sense of moral within the father, we're in a serious state that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Now we can go on Zoom. Somebody on Zoom like to speak?
Yeah.
Hi.
I'd like to speak.
Go ahead, Linda.
Even though seems to be an echo I don't know what to do about, I'm going to go right ahead on. I want to say a word for those of us who had imperfect fathers. Because my dad was not perfect. And I think actually all of us had and have imperfect fathers. My dad used to sit in front of the TV watching football and peel oranges for us. When we were stalling and didn't want to go to bed, I didn't want to go to sleep. We were in bed, but didn't want to go to sleep. We would say, "Mommy, bring me a drink of water." And I know my mom would say, "You go, Gil," because my dad would always bring us the water. He taught me where the strike zone was. He taught me how to ride a bike. when I had to do a project in junior high about the Middle Ages, he was an artist, but his day job was a purchasing agent at Lockheed. And he did a beautiful calligraphy cover for it, where he spelled knighthood when knighthood was in bloom, although I asked him when knighthood was in flower, and he spelled knighthood wrong, and left out the H. He physically kicked my ass when I disrespected my mother. When I told him I was going to join the National Council of the Methodist Student Movement in Montgomery to meet the marchers in spring of '65 who were marching from Selma to Montgomery, he told me that he had talked to his lawyer and that the FBI would be waiting for me in Atlanta to arrest Bill Corzine, who was the coordinator of the Methodist Board of Education at that point, who would have paid for my ticket on charges of transporting a minor across state lines. I spent my whole life loving my father and fighting with my father. We knew when the United States invaded Panama in 1990, and I got into a fight with my father about it, my kids told me that he was too sick to fight and I should back off, and I did. But I think most of us have complicated relationships with our fathers. We're not perfect, and neither are they, but that doesn't keep us from loving them and being grateful for them. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much, Linda. Looks like Jerry Rubin wants to say something.
Right. Thank you, Janet. Thank you all. I certainly found, like everybody else did, the presentations today were very touching. And I wish I was there, but I'm glad I'm on Zoom here. None of us are perfect. Fathers, sons, daughters, husbands, wives, we all are, and all our relationships are complicated, me included, foster homes, this, that, everything. But I remember my dad, may he rest in peace, as a wonderful person and a creative songwriter and someone that would watch politics on TV and get upset at these horrible Republicans. And I remember when I moved out here and was addicted to drugs, I never told him, but he called me in 1968 when he saw the original Jerry Rubin and all those guys at the Democratic convention, and he thought I was that Jerry Rubin. He said, "What the hell are you getting involved in Chicago?" So all I can say is, Dad, please forgive me for stealing money from your wallet and being a total asshole so much of my not only younger days, but even into my middle age and everything. But he was always understanding and kind, and may he rest in peace. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jerry. I think we all have some things that are coming up for us now, but I think